This photograph made me feel so strange. One is scrawny, one is fat, one appears greedy, other is in mid sentence and confused. One with two bowls of food, one with one. But the contrasts end with what's visible in front of you. Internally, both these two children have a very, very high risk for a life of very poor health. This country is fast becoming a place of contrasting body size, united only by the threat of disease. On one hand, about 12.5 million children aged between 5 and 19 in India are overweight. And by 2030, we are predicted to have more than 27 million obese children, which would represent 1 in 10 of such children globally. And then on the other hand, you have the problem of no fat or no food. About 36% of Indian children are stunted. And both these groups, both fat and not fat children, also face the added burden of poor nutrition. You might think that just because somebody has a lot of weight, they're fine nutritionally. There are a lot of studies showing deficiencies in iron, folate, B12, vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin C, and all of these are in the children of the next generation. And you might think that when parents hear all this, they would take it seriously, but they really don't. Studies have found that parental awareness of diet and health is incredibly low. Obesity alone is going to cost us over 480 billion US dollars by 2060, and that's a reasonable estimate. Malnutrition, whether it is too much fat or too little fat, is both linked to a very poor quality of life, an higher risk of disease, and premature death. That demographic dividend of young people we're so proud of as a country is pretty much set to go down the drain if we don't do something about their nutritional status. So how do you engage children to build healthy habits when everything in their food is scientifically engineered to tell them to open the can and not the vegetable peeler? And what about those who have no access to healthy food at all? What structures do we need to ensure children have a decent, nutritionally balanced meal in front of them? Let's find out from Mini Varghese, who is the India Director for Nutrition International, which is a global not-for-profit that is fighting against malnutrition. I was really hoping if you could tell me a little bit about the role of family systems when it comes to nutrition.
Yeah, it's a very, I think we always say in a lot of social science educations, like, in sociology, family is the basic unit, that's often we say about it, like, and the definition of family is that it is also, if you say all the surveys when they do it, who has a common kitchen, like, so your kitchen is a very fundamental to a family, like, if you look at it. So, if we say that, in relation with nutrition and food, so therefore family's role to ensure that what they eat, what they cook, and what are the patterns about our habits about food, it is all are formed over a period of time. And we do know that thing. It's what one family is a way of one item being cooked. It's not the same way. It is not the same non-vegetarian dish in another family cooked on it. The masalas are different. Everything is been there different. Or a particular vegetable is prepared in two different kitchen are different. So family has a unique position and a place in ensuring a good nutrition to the entire family. And the studies has very systematically shown that by age of 2, the children get to eat a range of things, and your palate is developed by age of 2. So therefore it's an important thing to the child has a wide range of items being made to taste, so that the child is then slowly being developing into it. But subsequently it is a learned habit. It is not a natural habit which comes through. Then you have to make a very conscious effort. I need to eat a particular thing, or a fruit or a vegetable kind of a thing. So Um, Therefore, families who what they buy, how they cook, the timing of your food, there is a lot of sociological understanding, and our biases related to food all are created by the family in this.
Yeah.
And while cooking or serving is currently in India to globally also, it is lot look at a very women centered activity. The burden, the example which you have talked is that I wish my mother cooked a food and given it to me. It is always seen as it's a work of a woman or the mother to be there. As we move forward a more equal society, it is a basic skill. The cooking is a basic skill, so we need to making sure that everybody in the family is able to cook. So it is not that, so that our dependency to uh, procure food from outside, which is easy in today's time with all the app based approaches that which we can use it to cook, buy food, instant gratification of your hunger, being that it has never been delayed now. So so the choice of food, the purchasing, the preparation, and the cooking, these habits are formed within the family. So for me, it's the basic unit from where the a good nutrition, a good habits has been formed within the family.
Yeah. You know, families are also very often limited by cultural values and beliefs, right? So, as you go to different systems, you'll find someone would want to give the boy child more food or the girl child less food, or the fact that if you're eating more, then you're healthier. So there is that perception as well. So there is a fair bit of nutritional education that the country needs. How can schools, communities, and then lastly at a policy level, how do we ensure that the right kind of awareness is there about nutrition?
Yeah. You're absolutely right on it. It is not one sector or one unit work. Each has to be complement on. The family's work has to be supported to by the school. The school education has to support what is families doing it. And community as a general, what we are growing it, what is available, and facilitated by a lot of government policies and government actions are very very important for it. I would probably just say that how we can support, because as you said, the general awareness about nutrition, and with all the social media now it is there. It is not all that awareness is not being right, who eats, there is fundamental questions like who eat the last and the least kind of a thing. So the biases is about food, we have a lot of biases about, oh, that food is bad, the South Indian food is this way, North Indian food is this way, when we come from different regions are there. The second thing is that within the family, the food distribution, it's also hierarchical and patriarchy come into the place. So men and the boys eat first, the women and the girls eat the last, and there never been a equity in the whole process of it. So while the family play a role to making sure that a nutritious food is procured, so what the food choices, who purchase food at home, whose choices are at home. Specifically when we are talking about children, we need to keep innovatively think about so the father is eating a particular food, and the child has to eat it. We have to be adjusting to it. Otherwise the child end up buying a food from outside and eat. It not necessarily it's nutritious, and not it's costly, being there. So what we need to at family level, the meal preparation, the meal planning, these terms were not there, but our mothers were always done these kind of a thing. What I need to cook tomorrow for the tiffin, what I need to be, but it need to be in a more advanced societies we are progressing in. These all are very very important kind of a things being as a family level. And family, as I said earlier, is also a place where a lot of food habits get formulated. So it's been there. And as parents, we also may have to insist on why certain way the food has to be eaten, like being that some of the, it's not an easy task. Those who have young children at home, that thing, it's a so it need to be a win-win situation for both the parents and the family being there. At the school level, uh, I will just quote an example from Japan. Japan is one country where the school has really, there is a food education being there, so it is part of your curriculum. Even in today's time, in our school curriculum, if you look at it, it is there. But it is not really, is not, it is just, we leave it at education level, but we really not taking it to the level that that is practicable. How a school can encourage children, like classify our children into 2 3 different categories. Under 10-year-old child, no knife, no fire, cooking practices can be done it, so
Yeah.
that the children don't go hungry, but they are able to make their own some basic food without using probably a knife and a fire. Or a children who is high, the bigger children, they can cook their own food, like how been done. So these practical experiences schools can, one is that education, and then the practical experiences being provided to children in the school setting. And also schools enforcing certain, now there are more and more schools or school canteens being there. What they are serving it, like is the colas which is getting, what is being the access to children which need to be there. There are laws very pertaining to it, but schools seldom been enforced on such things. So school play a role on ensuring that accessibility. So awareness generation, accessibility, these schools play important role. As a community, we need to be, a lot has to be done it. One is that food per se, the perception, the availability, the seasonality of which we grow, the community gardens, the local markets, that all determine what we are getting, and what are the habits being there. And another very important thing is that the food alone is not a solution. We also required physical activity, but a lot of the time our neighborhoods are not designed well for our children to exercise, cycle, like do a walk, and etc kind of a thing. So it is not, today's problem of obesity and all these things are not just the food, it's a combination of multiple items being there. At the government level, a lot can be done. There are laws related to food being there, which is enforced being there. You must have very recently come across about the Supreme Court has been insisting government that the front of package labeling has to be come into the place. So people are informed what you are consuming it, like been there. Then there is a whole lot of role it has on the awareness that they can generate on food practices. Food safety is a main thing, because the food what we consume is healthy, and it meets the standards what has to be there, kind of a thing. So government also plays, so it is all are mutually complementing each other, like and some countries has really been very progressed on front of package labeling by Australia. And the food safety, several countries has worked very well on it. So we required multiple things to be done to make the issue fixed in this country. Yeah.
Can I ask you something a little personal to end with? I find it so difficult to see children suffering more than perhaps an adult suffering, especially children who are stunted, very, very deprived of food, and children on the opposite side of the spectrum who are overweight and unable to move. I mean, because it's quite difficult to process. How do you deal with it?
So in our, the nutritional parlance of words, like we say that this is, people call it as double burden. We call it as a triple burden, because one is that we have an obesity, we have undernutrition, we also have a hidden hunger, or a hidden, that is all. We probably, the people who is looking all healthy, like many of us, but if you look at it, we may be short of some of the micronutrients, like and
Vitamin
there are
D.
vitamin D, iron, like
Have vitamin D.
if I
Yeah.
check on some of us who sitting here, we know that thing 50% of Indians are anemic, been that, so the micronutrient deficiency has been there. So we are grappling with it's an issue of a developing country, been that we are not finished with the undernutrition yet. We have an access to food and unregulated food systems being there. So there is obesity being there, and yet there is hidden hunger or the micronutrient deficiencies being there. uh, so how do we address it, so to addressing this required some fundamental work on it, which often we miss in the whole when we talk about it. So uh, what who we are is being determined by our grandmothers, not even by our mothers, because the nutrition is an epigenetic uh, uh, changes which has happened, been there. So what we need to do is that, so it has been our evidences are very strong that if you wanted to have a healthy population which has been healthy and who is able to, because nutrition is also affect your ability to learn, cognition, ability to work, it's all are depend upon. So the entire country's economic development is the foundation is on nutrition being there. So it is evidences are very strong that you need to invest the 1,000 days, the first 1,000 days. That means from the time of pregnancy to the first 2 years of a child being there. So we need to, if you have to really improve our nutrition status, we need to focus on pregnancy. So that's one thing, and the first 2 years of it. So because in India is also a unique situation where stunting set in, or the wasting set in the first 6 months. India has a unique problem about it. So the feeding practices to young children has to improve on it. Why first 2 years is very important? This 1,000 days is important because a lot of our overnutrition can be addressed by focusing on the first 1,000 days of the thing. So there are multiple things we have to do it. The exclusive breastfeeding, which is mandatory, which for us to making sure that again close to 50% of the women are not able to breastfeed exclusively in this country. Being that the right time for starting the food, which is called as complementary feeding, being that. Then there are some medical underlying conditions are there which has to be addressed, which require treatment, so appropriate management of any of underlying infections and etc is very very important. Government also runs several supplementation program. So vitamin A is supplemented in our this thing. From 6 months onwards, children are supposed to have iron syrups to be there. Being that. So there are several. So a comprehensive approach to what you call nutrition is important to be there. Not like that. For example, hand washing is a very important thing. The cleanliness is an important part that we do not have worm infections, and so that we don't fall sick. Every time a child falls sick, your nutrition deplete. It takes time for the child to be preventing a diarrhea and etc is very very important kind of a thing. So one is required to have a multi-pronged approach to addressing nutrition.
Thank you. In the next segment, we can discuss what happens when you go from being nutritionally conscious to being nutritionally obsessed. My best friend just had a new baby. Now she has 2 children. And I have none because the thought of being a parent terrifies me. I don't know how to toe the line between pushing a child to do the right thing and pushing them so much that they actually end up doing the wrong thing instead. For example, if you give me a child who is unhealthy, I will scare them so much about cancer, heart attacks, lung disease, surgery, medicine that they just might end up being too healthy. And this actually does happen. Last month, an 18-year-old girl, she died in Kerala because she survived on a digital water diet for 6 months to be healthy. She was less than 24 kilos when she passed away. This sort of relentless pursuit of an idealized version of health does have a medical name now. It's called orthorexia. These are people who will do things like taping their mouths shut, consuming all sorts of smoothies, indulging in biohacks that have no scientific validation, going to oxygen chambers, which sometimes catch on fire as well. And they eat all sorts of superfoods in their quest for wellness. And these are people who then go from being health conscious to being health obsessed. 2 studies of small sample sizes amongst Indian students found that there was a prevalence of between 30 to almost 50% of orthorexia or orthorexic habits in those they studied. So, how do you instill healthy habits and not unhealthy obsessions in a child? I think the first step is to be convinced yourself of what that line between health conscious and health obsessed really is. Do you have to eat 20 types of millets because everyone says so? Or is it okay to give your child just good old basmati rice and masoor dal like your parents did? There is no study to establish the link between orthorexic children and parents, but we do know that family systems heavily influence a child's habits. And we also know that there is significant orthorexic tendencies amongst Indian married women. A study in 2021 published in the International Journal of Indian Psychology found 90% of 128 married women in India to have orthorexia. I wasn't part of the study, but I have had orthorexic habits. I once drank only juice for a month to lose weight. Wasn't fun, but it reinforced my beliefs that children are not for me. What solutions do you have for instilling healthier habits in children? And do you think it's time for better information on packaged food to be available? Till that time comes though, feel free to check out our episode on how to buy a healthy snack, which we did with Priyasha Saluja from Cinnamon Kitchen. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating or write a comment or send us a note on pods@indiatoday.com or on 8588 966 996.